streets up. Yeah, yeah. Okay, wake the streets up. Okay, come on. Okay, wake the streets up. Yeah, yeah. Come on, wake the streets up. Yeah, yeah. Okay.
Yo, what's up? It's Tech Talk, so by that, it's Tuesday. Let's get into it. I do some serious topics. I always talk about tech and how government overrules it and stuff. And this story has everything. It's got a government, it's got space, and it's got animals. And trigger warning, it's got animal cruelty. Of course, we're not showing anything, but I talk about it. And there's a movie coming out called Space Dogs. Space Dogs uses archival footage to tell the story of the clever, docile, and ultimately doomed Moscow street dog named Laika. We all know Laika. She was the first dog, or the first mammal, to go into orbit. Space races were huge in the early 50s between the Soviet Union and the United States. And the Soviet Union sent Laika into space in a satellite, the Sputnik 2. Of course, the government assured the public that the pup would come back unharmed, but the reality was she was always intended to sacrifice herself for scientific progress. And there was no way for her to return to Earth at that time. The technology hadn't even been invented. For years, the official line from the officials was that Laika had been humanely euthanized before the satellite re-entered the atmosphere. Yeah, sure. The reality was she lasted less than a day before the heat and the stress killed her. Can you imagine that happening to you? Or can you imagine that happening to your dog? It's pretty gruesome, but it was the 50s and it was the Soviet Union. What do you expect? Anyway, the film doesn't have actual footage of Laika suffering, of course, but it does have plenty of clips of scientists putting Laika and a few other research dogs through some gruesome exercises and experiments. They spin them in centrifuges. They subject them to terrible, gruesome surgeries in order to rig them up with the necessary sensors. They change their sleep schedule and to see how long they would last above the planet's atmosphere. Very gruesome. And Space Dogs will be available mid-September, so pretty soon. But there is a message to this movie, obviously. And there's something respectable and clarifying about the sad dog who had to die for scientific progress. And Laika has inspired tons of artists and writers for decades as the little dog who burnt up alone. And she's memorized as a heroic creature who was a martyr. And she's earned her immortality amongst the stars. Very poetic, right? That's what we do to people who die in war. You give them a hero's send-off. But the truth is, Laika was collateral damage in a Russian project and a space race. And yes, but she's frequently seen as a symbol of Russian pride to regular people. I don't know if I'm gonna watch this movie. Maybe I'm gonna watch it with one eye and then the other eye I'm just gonna be giving my dog treats because it's pretty messed up. But it's interesting. There's a lot of never seen before footage. Moving on, a bit of a pivot, but Google told all its employees this Friday to take the day off as a collective well-being holiday during the pandemic. Look, the pandemic's been rough on all of us, right? And it's, on one hand, you're trying to look after your own mental health, you're trying to keep your job, and corporations and companies just work you to the bone. They're overworking their employees. Nothing is more despising to me than seeing an ad saying, "We understand times are difficult and we should maintain social distances." And it's like a full-blown production set. And it's like, dude, what? Corporate America is its own cancer. But anyway, Google told its employees to take Friday off. And they issued a statement saying, "We strongly encourage you to take this day off, and managers should actively support their team to reprioritize work commitments in order to do so." An internal forum for employees said, "If your manager identifies an urgent business critical need that requires you to work at the last minute, you should take the next available working day off instead." And everyone applauded this. It was a great move. Good move for Google. Good PR. It's a good maneuver. And, it's the last Friday of the summer. Give people a day off. I'm a little skeptical of this. You really think one day off in the work year should receive this much praise? I feel America's the only country that fetishizes working till you drop dead. It's like, oh, I worked 12 hours today, I worked 14 hours today. No other country has this culture. Yes, you know, do what you love, have a good career, apply yourself to it. But this 2 weeks off it's brutal, and some people don't even get 2 weeks off. It's a terrible mentality. It's a culture shift that has to change. You know, it's really sad. And the US really does take your pound of flesh once you start working. It's really brutal. But the system is designed such that you don't survive if you can't work. It's really sad, you know, this glorification of working till you die. And yeah, obviously for Google's tech employees, I think like a day off or something extra, it doesn't harm them. But, you know, you think of factory workers who are just like, you know, grueling, or essential workers who, I mean, the whole thing with essential workers right now has been so sad as well. I know I'm pivoting away from tech, but it's like, these are the people who are the highest at risk. These are the people who are making the lowest wages, and they have to go in and work. Otherwise, they're fired. They lose their time. They lose their payments. It's really despicable. And Google's move, on the whole, I think it's you know, it's a bit of a PR stunt. And you know, one day on a Friday, it's for the most part, you know, everyone's pretty much anyway gonna take the day off because it was Labor Day. I don't think it really doesn't mean much apart from a PR stunt. And the entire cultural shift needs to come off, that it's more than one day off in summer or more than 2 weeks off in the year. Yeah, at least I hope that wherever I work, I always, you know, have time to myself. And that's it for today's Tech Talk. Stay tuned for next week. You know, we're heading into fall and things should be picking up. We got Apple throwing out a lot of new products soon. Google will be throwing out a lot of new products soon, and we're going to be covering all of that. Thanks.